Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our kindergarten meeting. We're finalizing some details, and we'll get started here in about 1 or 2 minutes. Well, good evening again. My name is Dr. Cameron Ryba. I'm the superintendent of Strongsville City Schools. And on behalf of our entire team and our district, I'd like to thank you thank you for joining us tonight virtually for our annual kindergarten options meeting. So as you can see on the screen right now, one of the things that we'd like you to do, if you're interested in submitting questions that we can answer at the end of the presentation, or that may come up throughout, we want you to take a look at this slide and add the bit.ly address to your web browser or on your phone, or put your phone up to the computer screen and scan that QR code, and that should take you to a Google form or a survey, and that's where you can submit your questions throughout the evening as they come up. And then if you've been a part of our other community conversations, or if not, at the end of this session, we will some of our colleagues will join us, and we'll answer all of the questions that you have to make sure that you're informed as we move forward and get ready for the 2021-22 school year, and to welcome our newest and youngest students to the school district. So once again, thank you for entrusting your children to us, bringing your young learners to our district. We're thrilled to start this 13-year partnership. And as you make those important decisions about what's best for my child, is it half-day kindergarten? Is it full-day kindergarten? What's the difference? Hey, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. What are some options that are going to be available as we move into next school year with regard to kindergarten? And what's all of those nuts and bolts and procedures and timelines? We've got it all for you tonight. And if you don't catch it all today or tonight, the great thing about this presentation is it's being recorded. It's on our website where you're streaming right now, so you can go back and listen and look. And then on the front page, we have that kindergarten registration website that's got everything you're going to need to know about kindergarten registration. So please know we've got a lot of information to share with you. If it's the first time, if this is your first child, school-age child, we know it can be a lot. And we're here, and we'll share all of our team members that are here to work with you every step of the way to make sure that you're making the best educational and social, emotional, and academic decision for your child, and that we'll continue to partner together to make sure it's a successful experience. So with that, again, if you want to ask questions, make sure you scan that QR code or enter that bit.ly address to get to the form, and just type away as you have those questions, and we'll answer them throughout. And now it's my privilege to turn it over to our Director of Curriculum, Erin Green, who's going to start us and lead us through the presentation. So Erin.
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. So as we begin, as Dr. Ryba said, there's going to be a lot of information tonight. So it is going to be recorded, and there's an FAQ on our website that will go through everything again. So you can watch the recording, you can look through the information on there. So if you go to strongnet.org, you can see under kindergarten registration is where you'll be able to find all of this if you're looking for additional information. And I'll show you a little bit later, but that's also where you're going to do the registration or the intent form if you are looking for full-day kindergarten. So some district staff that we have with us, as well as building staff. You've already met Dr. Ryba. It's nice to put some names to faces. So I'm going to have Mrs. Pelko introduce herself, as well as Mr. Faust and Mr. Binkley.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mrs. Pelko. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for the district.
My name is Dave Binkley. I'm the Director of Instructional Technology for the district.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan Faust and I'm the Communications Coordinator for Strongsville City Schools.
Thank you. And now a few of our building principals were able to join us today. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Penny, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Stacco to log on and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Penny, and I am the principal at Chapman Elementary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Griffin and am the principal at Muraski Elementary.
Hello, everyone. I am Glenn Stacco, and I'm the principal at Whitney Elementary.
Great, thanks. And Glenn is also the star of the photograph that you see here on the elementary principals page. We're also lucky enough to have with us one of our literacy coaches. And so I'm going to have Mr. Steve Owens jump on and welcome himself and welcome you to the presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Owens. Like Aaron said, I am the literacy coach over at Whitney Elementary, grades K through 5.
Wonderful. So they may jump off here. We are going to do questions at the end. And that's one of the reasons I have Mr. Owens staying on if there's any curricular questions that he can help facilitate. Just to show you, we have current SCS kindergarten teachers on the screen. It doesn't necessarily mean these will be the same teachers next year, but it gives you a nice idea with regard to how many teachers are at each building, how many sections we have. So we are very thankful for these wonderful kindergarten teachers that we have. So we're going to jump right into the information here, and we'll start with the age requirement because this is a question we get often. So our district policy is birth date of August 1st of 2021. So if your child is 5 on or before August 1st of 21, they're eligible for admission to kindergarten for the 21-22 school year. In past years, we had a September deadline. So some of you who have had multiple kids, you may remember that. The last, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 years, we've gone to August 1st. So if your child doesn't fit into that, say they have a birthday after August 1st, but before the end of December, there is an ability to do early entrance testing. So on the screen, you'll see that there's a contact there. You can contact 440-572-7015, and that's the curriculum office. Again, if you want to see if your child is ready, and that's academically, socially, emotionally, all of those pieces. So we put them through some rigorous testing to see if it is a good match to put a 4-year-old in kindergarten at that time. Again, here's a slide on early entrance. If your child has a birthday that falls after August 1st of 21 and then turns 5, the steps that you'll need to do, again, this is only if you're interested in potentially pursuing the early entrance and you want full day kindergarten, you do want to do the full day kindergarten request form, but you do not need to submit a deposit at this time. If you are early entrance and you're just interested in the half day program, there's nothing at this point you need to do. Okay. So moving on to what are our kindergarten options. As you know, things have looked very different this year, and we've had multiple options in multiple grade levels. So let's talk about next year, what we are going to be offering. We will have our traditional half-day program. So students either attend AM or PM. The time is around 2.5 hours total from entrance to exit. And you can see the time frames on the screen of when the AM and the PM sessions take place. The other option for for in-person is our full day tuition-based program. So this is where kindergarten students would attend the full day of school, just like the 1st through 5th grade students do. The time for that is 9:05 a.m. and they would go through 3:30 p.m. Let me say that again, 9:05 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. A question that we are getting is, are we going to have online options? So this year, if you're familiar with what we are offering, we do have some online options for students that don't want to be in the building, families aren't comfortable sending them, or a host of reasons. It is our intent next year to offer these two programs. I do want to put a little asterisk and say that we need to have the attendance and the interest in order to offer these. However, it's our intent, as I said, to offer both of these. Let me go through those and let you know what they are. So the first one is called Solo 1.0, and we do have this year. We've actually had this for quite a few years. It just hasn't been as well known because only handfuls of students did it. So what this is an asynchronous platform. That means it is not Strongsville teachers. It is not necessarily Strongsville curriculum, but kids are logging on. There's a program in which they use. We currently use what's called Lincoln Learning, if you've heard mention of that. And kids log in and they have all of their work arranged for them and they complete it on a daily basis. But again, it's not at a designated time during the day. So it's not, you have to log in from 9 to 3:30. However, you log in when it works for the families. So we do have quite a few families taking advantage of this option this year due to childcare. So if your child maybe goes to a daycare or a sitter and they can't do all of the work throughout the school day, but you want them at home, this has been a really nice option for kids. Our other online option, and this is started second trimester, so a little bit later than the start of the year, but we recognized a need for this. And that's what's called our SCS Connects program. And this has been a phenomenal addition to our district. What it is an integrated program of kids at home that form a class. So we'll have a kindergarten class of kids, each of them at their own home, but they're united with one teacher, and that's their Connects teacher. And the really nice part is we've paired them up with a Strongsville kindergarten teacher. So a teacher that's in the classroom with their own set of kids. And then our Connects teacher is also in that same classroom, but with the kids at home. And what that allows for is an interaction between both teachers so they can co-teach. It also allows the kids at home to have access into the classroom and vice versa. We've had some really neat experiences with pen pals, with doing breakout groups so we can pair students that are live and in person with those who are at home, and just some really unique ideas. So it's kind of the best of both worlds if that's what you're looking for with regards to a traditional schedule. It does follow the traditional elementary full day program schedule. So those times that I mentioned on one of the previous slides. So those are two things to think about. Next, we want to talk about, how do we know, what do we do if maybe we want the online option, whether it's the Lincoln Learning Solo or whether it's the Connects program. So at this time, we're going to ask you on your intent form if you're interested in doing the online instead of coming in person. So we do encourage you, if you're interested at all in the full day in person, you still want to do your intent form. And one of the questions that you'll see is, are you interested if we offer a virtual program in taking part in that? And that's a simple yes or no. From there, we will gauge the interest and see if we have enough interested to do the full classroom or enough that would create a classroom for our online at-home SCS Connect students. So we will look at all the data based on interest, and then we'll give you the opportunity. So you're not locked in. If you say, yes, I'm interested, it doesn't mean you have to do that, but we will reach back out to you and we'll say, yes, we're going to do the full day SCS Connects program. Would you want that, or do you want the full day in person because you expressed the interest? And prior to the end of this school year, we should know exactly what we plan to offer and be able to give you some direction in that way. A question we often get is, okay, I'm doing a half-day program. Can I pick AM or PM? So the short answer is no. We typically only offer one half-day session at a building. So either AM or PM. There might be a circumstance, depending on numbers, because it does change each year, in which we are able to offer both AM and PM at a building. However, that's determined by enrollment numbers and also by addresses. So for transportation purposes, that's how they decide AM and PM. If you have a specific request due to, again, a work schedule, a babysitter, something like that, you can direct that to a building principal. If that session is offered, so say you want a PM at Whitney, if that's an option and there's room in that, then the principal can work with you to see if that's feasible. One other bullet here, that parents would be responsible for the midday transportation if the request is granted. So that's, again, if you're requesting a specific half-day AM or PM that's outside of what it would typically be. So another popular question is, why do you guys charge for full-day kindergarten? And the answer is because we are only funded for a half-day program. So the state of Ohio funds us to run half-day programs. We recognize that some students want half-day, some students want full-day, so we wanted to provide that option. However, in order to do so, we have to recover the fees from the non-funded portion, or the amount of the non-funded portion, that other half-day that's not covered by the state. So that's why we charge tuition. We're not making any money on the program. We're actually paying, using the tuition to pay for the staff in order to employ these teachers to have them for the full day. So what is different between half and full day programs beyond the obvious, how long, the duration of them? So what we talk about is the how is different, but not the what. And what that means is you're going to get the same quality, top-notch education in either program. You're going to be taught, your child's going to be taught the same skills and concepts and content in either program. So we look at the Ohio academic standards and we teach the kindergarten standards, whether you're half day, whether you're full day, whether you're Lincoln Learning, whether you're SCS Connects. Every student is going to learn that same curriculum because that's what we're expected to teach and students are expected to learn. However, because we have additional time, twice the amount of time, in the full day program, we can take it a little bit deeper with what we're doing. So we can do additional intervention and enrichments. We may be able to add in some project-based learning, makerspace time. Now, again, those are all contingent upon our social distancing and what things look like next year. But you can take the content and the concepts deeper and do more with them and spend a little bit more time on them. So kids are going to come out knowing the same things. They're all going to know the skills that are required and expected of a kindergarten student. You just have some additional time in the full day program in order to work with those and work with kids on a little bit more individual small group basis. Also, if a student is in the full day program, they will get more instructional time in art, music, and phys ed, and they also have lunch and recess built in. So in a half-day program, they still receive specials or encore, the art, music, and phys ed. However, it's a shorter duration, as well as they don't have lunch, they won't eat lunch, and they also don't have a recess if you're half-day program. Students are separate between half and full day programs. And what that means is we have specific classrooms that are strictly half day. So they're not intermingled half and full day, and then some kids leave during the day. It's either half or full. Some logistical questions. As far as how many kids are in a class, we often are asked that. What we strive to do is not exceed 25 students. Of course, we want the smallest class sizes possible. However, we balance that with being financially responsible and having enough students to make a class without overburdening or putting too many students in there. So minimally, our full day kindergarten classes will have 20 students. We want to make sure we have at least 20 at that building to make a classroom. If after we reach the cap with kindergarten registrations and spots at that building, students will be put on a waiting list if need be to be in a different a different building. So it doesn't happen often, but sometimes we will have our programs closed, and not enough students to create another section. So in those scenarios, we can offer, if I'm talking full day at this time, we may say, we don't have any more full day room at Muraski. However, if you're interested in Chapman or insert other building name that would have room, we would offer that to you. And we'd also put you on a waiting list for the home building. We want to keep siblings together, so that is something that we factor in. And we're going to talk about the order that the request forms and the deposits are submitted. And that's how we're going to timestamp the forms and create the lists. When we talk about the request form, it's going to save a slot in the full day program in the order received, but not necessarily the child's home school. But I don't want to incite any panic with anyone. We've always been very successful at getting kids in the full day program at their home building. We've had a few isolated incidents where potentially, they signed up a little bit later and they needed to go to a different building, but that's an option. You don't have to be placed at a different building. If that's not your preference, you can do a half day program, or like we talked about, be on the waiting list. There is a lot of shuffling that takes place because we'll have parents that register students, and put down the deposit, but they're not sure. And they want to say, well, if, maybe if we're in this building, then we'll do it. Or I'm also putting deposits down at parochial or private schools. We haven't made that final decision. And that's okay. So I don't want you to panic if you would find out, oh my gosh, I'm number 26 on the kindergarten full day list for Sarar, because that doesn't mean you're not getting in. And like I said, we've never had issues of, mass disappointments, sorry, you're not in. That's not how it works. We've never not been able to place a student in a full day program if they wanted one. And pretty much almost with 100%, we've had them in their home building. Again, a few isolated incidents, but for the most part, it's all worked out. So talking about transportation, if you're within 1 mile, we don't provide the transportation. However, if you're over a mile from the building, the home school, then we will provide transportation. There is non-busing streets on the district website. So it's real easy. If you just put in your street address, it will tell you, yes, we bus to that street, or no, we don't. Again, we want to make every possible effort to keep your child in their home school. We understand the importance with regard to closeness and with regard to community, and that's always our goal. Sometimes we get questions about, can you bus to a babysitter's house? The answer is, if it's within the school's boundary, then yes. And if it's the same half-day session area as the parent. So again, we just are putting together a lot of talking points because these are the questions we tend to get, and we're trying to hit all answers. Sometimes, how early can we drop our child off at the building? The earliest would be 10 minutes prior to the start of their class. So if you're going to transport your child 10 minutes prior to whenever the day starts with their half day, or if they're full day, that would be the maximum time. So what does it look like as far as how do I know? What's the timeline? What's the process? We will get you your building assignments. Our goal is April for acceptance, meaning we will send them to you. We will say, hey, here's where you're slated to be. And then you can decide yes or no if that's what you want to do. In June, you'll get some further information, and that will help you with how do I create a PASS account, a parent account. And that's where you'll get information about busing and those type of things. So that's not until late June. You don't need to worry about that at this point. But that's, like I said, where you'll find that transportation information. And class lists, that's always a biggie. You know, how do we find out what classroom our kids are in? We post those about a week before school begins on each building. Couple other specific isolated questions, but if you have students currently attending our early learning preschool, so whether we're talking the one on Lund Road or on Chapman, you do not need to go through this registration process. So please, you don't need to do any of this. You should have received a questionnaire that was given to you, and if you didn't get it, you will get it very soon. But that's all you have to fill out. So from the preschool, let them know your intentions for next year. However, if you want full day, you do still need to complete the request form and submit your deposit. So you don't have to go through the registration process, which we'll talk about, but because they're already our student, they're in our district, so we have the information on them. But we do want you, if you're interested in full day, go ahead and submit your intent for full day as well as your deposit. Sometimes we get the question, you know, well, what if my child is on an IEP and they're going to be going full day because that's what the IEP dictates. If that's the case and you've already paid your deposit, you would get your deposit back. So it's an individual basis. You can certainly reach out to Megan Surso or anyone at the preschool or me or the treasurer's office if you have specific questions regarding that. So here's kind of the information most of you probably are looking for. If your child is not in our preschool program and they meet the age requirement, you want to do the following things. And again, this will be posted. It's also located in an FAQ in a couple places on our website. So if you're registering your child for early entrance testing, again, that's because they're not yet 5 as of August 1st, then all you do is fill out the full day kindergarten request form. So you'll go online tomorrow and you'll say, yes, I'm interested. It doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get in. Your child would first have to qualify. But that's all you need to do at that point. You don't need to do a deposit. And again, that's for early entrance if you're thinking about trying that. If you're doing half day, you have it easy for now. You don't have to do a request form. There's no deposit to submit. There's no forms right now that you need to fill out. What we're going to talk about now is if you're interested in the full day program. And when I say that, I'm going to speak to in-person full day. So if you are interested in sending your child full day in person, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we're going to open our request form on our website. What that is just some basic information. So it will ask you your name, your email, child's first and last name, home building, a couple other very simplistic questions. So there's nothing you have to have prepared for that. And then you hit submit. And we will generate our list from there as far as who's interested. Don't forget, though, there will be a question that says, you know, if we offer our online program, would you be interested in that? And so again, it's not committing you either way, but if that might be an option for you, go ahead and let us know that. The second thing you'll want to do, you're going to want to submit a $300 deposit to the treasurer's department. So you have some time. It's not due tomorrow, but by January 22nd at 4 p.m., that's when we want to make sure we have your deposit to hold your spot. We'll get into, in just a few slides, the refundable, what that looks like, and our procedures, and how do you submit the deposit. But the second thing you do after you do the form, you have your deposit, there's a registration packet on our district website. So you'll go to www.strongnet.org and you'll see a link on the right that says kindergarten registration. That's where you're going to find all of this information. So there's an online pre-registration. It's not going to open until mid-February, and then we're going to close it March 12th. So you have a lot of time, but this is really going to be, okay, you know, here's the information about my child, and you're going to get into specific things. And I'll go on to the next screen and show you what some of those specifics are. But this is more detailed than just, I'm interested in full day. Here's my child's name. So again, you have time, but after you submit your request form online tomorrow, or you can do it after tomorrow, but if you're really looking to get a spot, I'd recommend tomorrow morning, if you can. And then $300 deposit by January 22nd. The online pre-registration, you'll see a link on our website. It'll open mid-February. So even if you try and click on it now, you're not going to get anything. But then by March 12th is when we're going to start doing the registration process. So this is what we'll need from you by March 12th. And again, it's all online. You don't have to memorize it. But just to give you a heads up, I know some of you are planners. So what we require, birth certificate, immunization records, the proof of residency, legal custody, guardianship, if there's a situation where the child is not living with both of the parents, if there are court orders or court-appointed guardianships, anything to give us the knowledge of who's and what we need to make sure that we're following. And then if your child has an IEP or an ETR, from a preschool or from, if any situation, that's something that we would ask for as well. Don't worry about it if you don't know what those are or your child does not have one. You certainly would not need to submit anything. Just a reminder, if you're looking at early entrance because they turn 5 after August 1st, you don't need to do this registration part. We're going to save you the effort until we know for sure, yes or no, that they are eligible and will be attending kindergarten. So with the pandemic, we started last year, we used to do in person, we would have appointments, everybody would come in and meet with Sue. We did this last year out of necessity, and it actually worked really well. So we have parents or families submit the documents, either uploading them onto the registration site. That's our preferred method. It's pretty slick. Or if you're not tech savvy, you don't have that ability, you can scan and email it to Sue Koheiser. Please just make sure you include the student name and kindergarten registration in the subject. Or you can take a picture of it. So if you have a smartphone, you have your documents, take a picture of it, send it to Sue via email. There's some side notes there that you can read if that's applicable. Or if you want to do them in person, make a copy of them and then provide us. There's a Dropbox at our administrative building at 18199 Cook Avenue. You can put everything in an envelope or staple them together or both and drop them off here. And we will get them. They'll be secure. And from there, Sue can take and do everything she needs to with the registration process. Now, if you can't do that prior to March 12th, just give Sue a call. Her phone number is on the slide, and these slides will be posted. And she'll make special accommodations to ensure that we can get your child registered. Okay, now this may get repetitive, but I'm going to continue to just kind of stress the same things. Make sure that you want to secure your child's spot in full day kindergarten before you do any documentation. And what that means is if you're interested in full day, go online and do the intent form. That's the first thing you do. And then the deposit. And the deposit, that all starts tomorrow. You have a week to get that deposit in. And again, we'll tell you the steps for doing that here in just a second. Past March 12th, we're not cutting off full day kindergarten. You can still register. However, we're going to probably put you on a wait list and see where the chips fall with regards to how many students, the cap at the classes, how many classes at the building, how many online students, those type of things. So with regard to the deposit, so we talked about the cost, we talked about the tuition. Typically, it's been between $2,200 and $2,700 for the year. Now, that's not a cut and dry figure, obviously. It varies based upon enrollment, because what we want to do is pay for the other half of the day for the staffing. So we need to take the number of students we receive and find out the minimum number. You know, we want to keep it as low as possible for families. So again, we're not making any money, but what's that number that we can afford to offer these full day programs? So $300 deposit after you've done your request form, and you'll want to submit that to the treasurer's office. Now, again, our administrative building is what we already talked about at 18199 Cook Avenue. Here's the ways in which you can pay it. You can do cash. So if you're somebody that carries cash, you can come in person and stop by our treasurer's office. They'll give you a receipt. You can do a check. You want to make that payable to Strongsville City Schools. You can mail that to us. I know there have been some challenges with the postal system, so it may be wise to drop it off if you think it won't get here. You know, if you're mailing it closer to 122. Or you can do an online credit card. So you're going to see a link on the Strongsville City Schools kindergarten registration page. So you can go on there and do credit card. There is a surcharge that does apply, a percentage for using that feature. Please don't come here with a credit card. If you're coming in person, it's with cash or check. So I'm going to jump back 2 slides here. When will you know the final cost? We will let you know the final tuition cost as soon as we have it finalized. Again, it's usually mid-summer. We will invoice you in 2 installments, subtracting the deposit, and that will come through the treasurer's office. The first payment, if you decide, you know, this is the route I want to take, we're going to do the tuition-based full day, it'll be due August 6th. And if you pay the full amount by August 6th, we do offer a $50 discount. So instead of doing two separate payments, if you do it all at once, there is that slight discount, but every little bit helps. The balance due, and again, that cost has to be determined, and then we'll subtract what you already paid in your deposit. But whatever's left of that balance will be due then December 17th. So that's right before we start the second semester. What if things have to go remote because of COVID? So you sign up to be online, you sign up to go in person full day, and then things happen and, you know, unforeseen circumstances happen and we have to close the buildings and do remote learning. What we have done this year and last year is we only charge you the tuition for the days in which you're actually in person in the building. So George, our treasurer, and his department do a great job of figuring out the daily rate and billing accordingly. If we do an online full day kindergarten, like we talked about with the Connects, there quite possibly will be a tuition associated with that, because again, we do have to do the staffing. Same thing with what's the actual cost going to be. We will communicate that to you. Register for in-person full day kindergarten if that's what you think you want, with the option of, okay, I might do the online. If you know you solely want online at home, and you don't want to go in person at all under any circumstance, you really don't have to register tomorrow for the full day. You can, but I would almost say hold off, because if you don't want full day in person, you have no interest in that whatsoever, it's not going to be a factor in your decision. Then we'll let you know when we know exactly what we're doing for online options. And then you can decide from there, half day or online at home. So we talked about how to pay. If you miss payment deadlines, you know, of course we are going to work with you. However, we do have to have some parameters in place. So we put the deadlines in place. The payments due August 6th and December 17th. That helps us if, you know, maybe you say, okay, second semester, I don't want to do the full day anymore, so I'm not going to pay that second tuition balance. That makes a nice transition. Then after winter break, we would put your child in a half day. Again, we definitely, absolutely want to work with you. If you have unforeseen circumstances, things come up, just contact the treasurer's office. They're very good at working, maybe doing payment plans, but we do like to honor these deadlines unless we hear from you. How about you pay the deposit, you change your mind. So tomorrow morning you sign up, you go online and do your $300 deposit via the credit card, or you mail in a check. If you change your mind, just let our treasurer's office know. So the phone number's there. It's 440-572-7021. And as long as you've made that decision to cancel, to withdraw from the full day in person by May 20th, then we'll refund the full amount. So you have up until May 20th, a few months to decide, is it really what I want in-person full day next year for my kindergarten student? If by May 20th you don't know, or you think you want that full day, and then something transpires later and you decide that's not the route you want to go, if you decide by July 15th, we can give you back half of the deposit. So those are the two key dates to remember there. May 20th to get back the full $300 deposit, July 15th to get back half of that deposit. We are often asked, do we do before and after school care? And again, everything has been very different this year, but we don't have any school or district affiliated before or after school cares. Some buildings work with different agencies and they are able to offer it. The best thing to do if you're not sure is to call the building and ask what they do. And again, it may look different this year than in previous years, but they can fill you in on, we've partnered with this agency or this institution in years past, and we intend to do that again. So check with the building. They're able to tell you specifically what that looks like. And then as a reminder, transportation to and from the student's home school is provided by the district as long as you're outside of the 1 mile radius. Couple last just planning type, if you're a planner, we have a kindergarten orientation. This is all contingent upon things being somewhat normal in the fall, but that will take place on August 17th. And so that is the day in which your child and parents or guardians will go to the building. It's kind of like the first day of school, but you go together. There you'll meet the teacher, see the classroom, learn about the curriculum. The kids get to practice on the school bus, and you'll get all of this information in a letter that's sent to your home address prior to that. So there's no busing on that day. It's kind of a little intro, get to know the teacher, get to see who's in your class. And that will be, as it stands now, August 17th. Now, should anything change, of course, we will keep you up to date. Child supply lists. Some parents are incredibly well planned and they ask us, what do we need for supplies and when will we know? Those will be posted right around July 1st or maybe a little bit sooner. So that's going to be on our website as well. Go to the building, your homeschool building, and then click on supply lists. So to recap, important dates here. I won't read them all, but just the key ones is tomorrow's January 14th. So starting at 8 o'clock, you can go on our website and submit the intent form for full day kindergarten in person. You then have through the 22nd of January to do your $300 deposit. Starting mid-February and before March 12th, you want to do that online pre-registration. So that's where you provide Sue Koheiser with all of those things we talked about, the birth certificate and the proof of residency. You can kind of see the timeline then that follows. It's all the same that we talked about with regards to when tuition is due, contracts mailed, those type of things. And then again, as it stands now, our start dates, the 17th of August is our kindergarten orientation. And the next day, the 18th, will be the full first day of kindergarten for our students. You will get information mailed directly to you from our buildings, from our office, with regards to when do I show up for orientation, what does everything look like, how do I know where to go, when to go. And you'll also get that information about your pass account that we talked about at the very beginning. And that's where you can find your busing information, should your child be riding a bus and have transportation. So as we talked about at the beginning, these slides will be posted, and there's also a really nice FAQ document, and that's on our website, the same place that we've been talking about, but on the right-hand side of strongnet.org, you will see kindergarten registration. Once you click on that, it's going to open up a page, and it's going to have all of the forms that you need. So that's where you're going to submit your intent form. You can find these slides, you can find the FAQs, the pre-registration, all of that information is on there. Oops. So one more time, again, I know it's repetitive, but we want to make sure that we've made the point across here. For full day in person, if that's what you're interested in for next year kindergarten, starting tomorrow morning, which would be the 14th. It says Friday, I believe that's Thursday. But you'll go to strongnet.org, kindergarten registration, and use the date of January 14th, you're going to click on the request form, and you can see where it is on the website. That's just a little screenshot. You're looking for full day kindergarten request form. Fill that out. It's just a quick Google form. Push submit, and then follow up with that $300 deposit before Wednesday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. If you have questions, I can't imagine there's anything that's unclear. If you have questions, please reach out to us. We know it's a lot. As Dr. Ryba said, if this is your first time going through it, it can be a little overwhelming. So if you're not sure about the questions, if they have to do with finances or payment plans, like we talked about with IEPs, if you're not sure what that will look like, you can reach Dawn in the Treasurer's Department. Her email and phone number are there. You can certainly reach out to me if you have any questions about programming, anything about academics, pretty much anything at all. We'll make sure to get back to you. But my email is there, and then this is also our office phone number. You'll reach Brenda Rosala, who's phenomenal at answering questions or getting you to the right person if she's not sure. So at this time, we are going to do the question and answers that were submitted. So I am going to exit off of my screen. I'm going to have Dr. Ryba jump back on, and we'll start with some Q&As.
All right, I'm ready, Dan, for some questions.
All right, Dr. Ryba. Let's start with a couple transportation questions. The first being, do half-day students get busing to and from school?
All right, so this is a little confusing. So we talked about the 1 mile limit. So the 1 mile radius still applies, but it's different for half-day kindergarten. So the easiest way to explain this is the midday, we will put your students on a bus and take them home if you want them to be on the bus, no matter if they're within the 1 mile radius or outside of it. So let's break it down. If I have a child that's an AM kindergartner and I live within the 1 mile radius, which means I don't get transportation, you have to take your child to school, but we will drive them home at the end of their morning session on the bus. If the same scenario applies and you live within the 1 mile radius, you're not supposed to get transportation, and your child's in a PM half-day kindergarten, we will pick your child up from home and bring them to school at that midday hour. But when school is dismissed at the end of the day, you will have to provide transportation for your child. If you live outside of that 1 mile limit, then you're going to get transportation both to school and from school, no matter if you're AM or PM.
And a follow-up question as far as determining that 1 mile radius. Can you explain the procedure and how that radius is determined?
So how that's determined is it starts at the location where we would pick up your child at your house. So typically it's even with your front door. And then it's the pathway. I've seen some of the questions. So it's the actual driven path that we would need to go to get to the school. and get to the drop-off location where we drop students off in the buses at the school. So if you want to kind of go in your car and go from the front of your driveway and drive to your elementary school and pull to where buses drop off, and you look at your odometer and see where the mileage is, that's where you could see. But you don't have to do that because we've already done it for you. Aaron, one of the things that I noticed on the kindergarten registration website is we don't have it there, but we can link. We have a specific document by building, and it's called our non-bus streets by building. So the guidelines in our board policy is near that mile mark. So some of you may say, hey, I've done it. I've driven my car and we're 1.02 miles away and I should get transportation. That's not how it works in our district. We use that 1 mile as a guide. So there's some folks that are a little under, a little over. We determine non-busing streets. So if you go on our website, I'll have Aaron link that to the kindergarten registration page. It's called our non-bus streets by students. You click on that link, you go to, hey, I go to Chapman Elementary School, and you can see all the streets and the addresses where we don't bus, and that'll give you a specific answer to that question. So, a little bit about procedurally how we figured that out, and then where you can find specifically if your child will be bused or not.
Excellent. Next question is about parents who might have twins. And do the parents have to fill out 2 separate applications for students that are twins?
Yeah, so if you have multiples, we want an application per child. So 1 application per child. So twins, triplets, however many children you have, or if you have a blended family and have multiple children in the same grade, 1 application per child, 1 deposit, per child. You can write a check for multiple kids, but 1 application per student that will be attending kindergarten.
Okay, we've got a couple questions COVID related. The first is, will the COVID vaccine be mandatory?
So at this point, the vaccine will not be mandatory. If we're talking about for adults, we're just moving into that phase. And there is, we've got a legal update that there is some legal authority for a school district to say that all adults in the school district have to take the vaccine. But it's not something that's being suggested at this time. And so at this time, there's no indication from the district that we are going to mandate it from an adult perspective. We did survey our adults, and we have the majority of our adults are volunteering to get the vaccine. In terms of students, I can't answer that question yet. We do have vaccines that are required for student attendance in our district. The legal aspect of it hasn't caught up with the practice of what's going on. So in terms of students being required, that's being a required vaccine for students who attend our district. I don't have an answer for that because that hasn't been defined yet by the law.
Next question has to do with masks and facial coverings. Will kindergartners be required to wear face masks, and what kind of COVID procedures are in place? So maybe you can talk a little bit about what we've gone through this year as a district.
Yeah, so currently all students, unless they have a documented reason to not wear a face covering, and there's specific criteria that you have to meet and have to have on file, and if it's a medical reason, we need medical documentation. So all of our students have to wear a mask. So not a shield, again, unless there's an exemption, but they have to wear a facial covering that covers their nose and mouth. So that's one thing that all of our students preschool through 12th grade have to do. The other thing that we implement in our district is social distancing. So at the elementary level, we've required a minimum of 5 feet social distancing within the classroom. So that's 5 feet from the center of my person to 5 feet to the person next to me. And then, we've afforded opportunities for increased hand washing, increased disinfection and sanitation procedures. We've limited the movement of students in the building. So some of our encore classes come to the classroom. Some go to the rooms. We've been able to, based on learning more about COVID, we've been able to allow some students to move. Lunch is in the classroom, so students will be in their area at their desk, and they'll be able to eat lunch in their classroom. We do allow students to go out to recess. Recess, depending on the building, does have some restrictions in terms of zones of areas that they could play or how much interaction they have with other students. Our goal as a school district is to, at the elementary level, is to keep cohorts of students, so that's groups of students together by classroom and at most by grade level. So that's our focus there. So that's what we're doing right now. You may have heard that things evolve, things change. The Ohio Department of Health has just given new guidance on social distancing as it relates to quarantines. So that's something that we evolve. So we continue to evolve as we learn more. But I can assure you that school is probably the safest place our kids and adults can be in terms of contracting COVID, in terms of spreading COVID. Our procedures have worked, and we've been able to successfully stay open for our students for a long period of time. And the reasons we've had to close were more for staffing issues or substitute staffing of our classrooms and substitute issues than spread of COVID. So how do we move that forward to what does that look like in August of 2021? It looks at what I just said as the foundation, and if the Ohio Department of Health or other health partners dictate that because of the vaccine or because of the natural progression of the virus, we are able to remove some of those restrictions, we will, and we'll continue to update our responsible restart guidance document as those changes are made.
Couple registration questions for you. If we register for the full day program, but then decide we want to do half day, will a student be guaranteed a half day spot?
So we always, as we go through the registration piece, if you decide to move from full day to half day, the first thing we say is, okay, what is your home school, and is there room in that half day program? If there is not room in that half day program, then we look at other buildings that may have room. Up until this point, we have not had, so I say that that's the rules, right? So what I mean is, if you're in the full day program, you say, hey, I've changed my mind. I want to go, I use Sarar. I want to go from Sarar full day to Sarar half day. And Sarar half day is closed because we have 25, 26 students already in that half day. We would say to you, I'm sorry, that building is closed. But here's other half-day programs you can go to, and we'll provide transportation for you. And then the following year, you would be able to come back to Sarar. So I don't want that to make everybody nervous. In the time that we've done this, we have not had issues with half-day kindergarten and there not being room at half-day kindergarten at the home buildings. It could happen, but up until this point, it has not happened. But what I would share with you is that the later you wait, the closer you get to beginning of August, mid-August, that's when we really get an influx of new students that are registering. So we want you to make that decision as soon as possible. And obviously, Erin said it earlier in her presentation, but we do give precedent, or we do give credence to those families that have siblings in the buildings. We don't, unless it's a parental choice, we haven't separated siblings. But please let us know as soon as possible so we don't have to have that concern or anxiety, and we can make sure kids can be in their home buildings.
And another COVID question, sort of related to the half day program. If a child is in a half day program and COVID dictates remote learning, will students be provided with virtual half day instruction?
Yeah, so you cut out there at the end, but I think I heard is if students will students be provided with half day instruction? So the answer is yes. If we go into the next year and we still have to move through some learning frameworks, between in-person and remote learning, that would still be the case as is happening in our district, as happened this year, that students would be in half day or full day would be provided remote instruction. And how the plan is right now is it would follow the student's typical school day. So obviously things can change. We may evolve that, but based on the last evolution of remote learning, students followed their typical school day at home, online with their teachers.
Okay, is the online pre-registration that starts in mid-February? Aaron mentioned that that is for full day. Would that be for half-day students as well?
I'm going to ask Aaron to come back on and answer that question for us. Aaron?
Sure, it is. And I did not do a great job explaining that. So if you want half day, you're going to go ahead when mid-February comes around, and that's when you're going to do the registration process. So that's all you really need to do starting mid-February if you want half day.
Okay, a question about is there after-school care offered for students in our district?
So in district after school care right now, we have we had one building in the past that had before or after school care. That's actually something that we were looking at prior to the pandemic starting, and we will continue to look at to see if it's something we could consider partnering with an outside group to provide that at more of our buildings or at the previous building. So Mr. Griffin, I know you're on the call. Can you remind me, is Y-Care still providing anything at Muraski, or has that been paused this year because of the pandemic?
It's been paused this year because of the pandemic, and yeah, that relationship, it was always Y-Care, but at this time it's not happening.
Thank you, Mike. So as we take a look, so what that means for this answer is at this point, there is no before or after school care at any of our buildings specifically. It is something that we are exploring, so possibly it could be, but as Aaron mentioned, based on where, this is a very important point, based on where your child is set to go to kindergarten, there are certain daycare facilities that, in the city that provide before or after school care that get transportation to and from buildings. But if you go to, Sweet Kittles or Moulin Rouge, that's a movie, right? What's it? I can't remember what it is now as I trip myself up.
The Chaperone Rouge.
Chaperone Rouge, that's it, thank you. So La Chaperone Rouge, or any of the others that are out there, we only transport to specific buildings. So please make sure if you're looking for before and after school care, call your provider and say, which buildings do you transport to? Or call the actual school building and they can tell you which of the area daycare providers provide that transportation, so you can be prepared if you need that before or after school care.
Okay, two questions. I believe Aaron covered these, but maybe a refresher. How do we find out our child's homeschool? And if you could just touch on the non-busing link that you mentioned before, where can families find that on the website?
So both of those, what we want to do is we will get both of those on that kindergarten registration page. So as Aaron talked about, if you go to strongnet.org, you go down on the right side under shortcuts, you'll see kindergarten registration. So we will link that non-busing streets there. I saw in the chat somebody put about finding an old copy of it. The real one is, we have it on the website. It's the 2020-21 school year. There's just small tweaks year to year. So we'll get that on there so you can access it on that kindergarten registration site. And then if you go to that same site, scroll all the way to the bottom, all you have to do, there's a little part of it that says type in your street name. And it will pop up to say, hey, I live on this street. You click submit and it'll tell you what building your child will go to. So everything will be able shortly to be found. That what building will my child attend? That's there right now. Again, scroll all the way to the bottom, enter your street, and it will run through our database and share the school your child will attend. And then, the link for the non-busing street will get up there shortly, so you can access that as well.
Excellent. Last question, and I'm hoping that I won't confuse this question and how it was written. If we go full remote as a district before the school year starts, can you get a refund if you don't want to participate in that and you've already paid for full day kindergarten? So maybe, where do some of those refund dates hit and decisions that need to be made for parents?
So in terms of refunds, that is a Board of Education decision. So, that's something where, if we need to start the year remote for what's going on in terms of the pandemic, we will communicate that as soon as possible. And we will share options like we did this year based on the board's vote of, if you stick with full day, here's how tuition will work. In terms of remote learning, in terms of in-person learning, or here's the options that you have moving forward to make some transitions or refunds. So I can't answer that specific question because I don't have the authority to make that decision. That's something that Georgiana Ignastu, our treasurer, and I work together. We provide the board with a recommendation, and then we share that with the families. So that's the best answer I can give at this time.
Excellent. And that concludes all of the questions that came in tonight. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you to all of our parents that have joined us tonight and shared your questions and your time with us. And I'm going to turn it back over to Erin for any final thoughts to conclude our evening.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Dr. Ryba said. We look forward to having your child in kindergarten next year. If you have questions, again, please reference the website or give us a call. We can walk you through it. That's why we're here. It is a little overwhelming and potentially my explanations were not crystal clear. So let us know. We're glad to help you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the opportunity to educate your children, and we wish you a good night. Thank you.